Hey guys, thought I would just share another video, and in this video I want to go through your IG followers and how you can get the best out of this in layers. Now, most typically when you're running follower ads, this is the traffic objective, and what you're doing is you are running an ad or a number of different ads to your Instagram profile, and in return you're asking for follows. Now, most typically, most people without much experience with Meta, they will go broad and they will let Meta try and find them the right people. Now, with broad, when you're going broad in terms of context is an open audience. So you're giving Meta the power to try and find you the right people. Now, the downside with this is you get a lot of people, but the quality probably isn't there. Now, broad is good when your ad account has spent a lot of money and it's got a lot of data. Once it has that, Meta know who it's looking for. But as someone who is quite new to ads, going broad, you're going to get a lot of people, but the quality is probably going to be low. The next layer is detailed. Now, detailed could be something like, for example, if you're a physio, you would target people that have injuries that are interested in physio. Right, so now you're telling Meta, I want to try and find specific people. Now, with that, that's a single interest or behavior. So you could basically use an interest like injuries or rehab or recovery. And what then Meta will do is it will try to find people within that interest. The next one is layered. So now what you're doing is you're layering an interest. So you're saying people with injuries, but must also work in finance, insurance and trading, for an example. Now, what a layered stack does is it makes the audience even smaller. So what you've got with broad is completely open. Detailed is a specific interest, and then layered would be interests and employment. Now, each one, the audience will get smaller because you're being more and more specific with who you're trying to target. Now, the last one is your lookalike audience. That would be an email or customer list that you have from previous clients you've worked with, or it could be your Instagram account. And what Meta will do, it will try and find people that have similar behavior traits as your followers. So if you have a good follower count and they're all engaged, Meta will try and find more of them. Now, how I always start with any account is you always go broad, because broad will get you the fastest data on your creatives, so that you have an understanding of what's working and what's not, and you're paying a lot less because it means Meta can reach people. Once you've got that data and you find, okay, cool, I'm not getting quality, but I know that video 1 and video 3 work really well, you can then move to the next phase and go, right, let's go down the route of detailed. Let's target people that specifically like this. Then what you're going to be doing then is then testing and seeing what the reply rates are, how much you're paying for a follower. Now, traditionally, each stage costs slightly more. Okay, but what happens is the quality improves. So as you can see here, this is how I would work it. You start broad, you establish a baseline for a cost per lead and follow. You also will get a lot of data on your creatives, i.e. like your click-through rate, your cost per click, your cost per follow, engagement quality, cost per reply and cost per book call. Like you say, when you're going broad, you probably will get a good cost per follower, but your cost per call and the things that matter, the tangible outcomes, probably will cost a lot more. Obviously, then you'll go down to detailed audiences. So you start identifying specific niches within your audience. So who am I trying to work with? I'm working with this industry and these types of people. Then layered interest, you get even more specific. So I'll go through what that looks like for each stage, but let's just go through the insights when we're doing this. So the key insights when you're testing here for broad, detailed, layered and lookalikes is the first step with broad is it's a lower CPA, right? So you will get a lot of followers and visually it looks good, but the key metric to really track is what's the outcome. I might be getting a good cost, but what is the outcome? So what I've seen with broad is the lead quality is slightly lower. Detailed, higher intent, but it's a smaller audience. It may cost you more. And then layered is higher quality, but the reach may be limited because, again, it's an even smaller audience. Now, Meta has evolved, and broad usually wins if your creative speaks directly to the right person. However, I still advise that you go down these routes, because if you find that you're not getting a good cost, if you start specifically targeting people that you actually want to speak to, you will find that those people will fall in. Now, visual examples of what I see across the board. So from a cost per follow, or from a sort of reply rates and things like that. Now, broad, you let the algorithm find the people. Now, what I see for a follower, £1 to £1.50. Okay. And what I would say is followers, if I correct this, I would say 75% of these people would be irrelevant. However, what you are getting is a lot of volume. Okay. Then lookalike will cost slightly more. I would say it's around 4 out of 10 that would fall in within your bracket of types of people, providing the lead list you provide is high quality, or providing your followers are high quality. If you've got a follower page with bots and people that aren't relevant to your brand, it will try and find more of those people. So this is based on if you have a good, solid following foundation. Now, detailed, specific interests. Now, that's super specific, right? So you will probably pay more for a follower. However, let's just say, for example, you target employment roles and health and wellness, fitness, nutrition. Now, if you want to be super specific with, I need high paying people coming over to see my ads, but I also want them to be interested in health and fitness, you would go along the lines of the highest paying jobs in the UK or the US. And then you would say, but must also match health and wellness, fitness, protein, nutrition. Do you see where I'm going with this? And then obviously you've got your layered, which is even more specific. And what you'll find is each one will cost slightly more. However, quality improves generally. My advice would be, if you're at broad and you're getting a good return, you will never need to go to these next layers. But these layers are there when it's not working. Now, what that looks like from a campaign structure, now if we're going broad, you can see here, this is broad, no interest targeting at all. So here, in this little section here, there's absolutely nothing. So there's no one in this section. We're not targeting anyone. We're basically saying, Meta, go and find me the people. And then if you look at the audience size, 33 to 39 million. Now, it's not going to reach that. What Meta's job is to do is to try and find the best people for you, but still, what it means is Meta has a lot of reach, so it can just keep trying to find people. Now, the next one is detailed. So this is just specifically one batch of interests. So for this, for example, health and wellness, natural food and drinks, vitamin and nutritions. That's all we're going to be targeting. So what Meta will do, Meta will try and find either this, or either this. So anyone that falls in those categories, Meta will try and find, if that makes sense. So what you're doing is you're stacking interests together to build up a bigger audience, right? If there was just one of these, so health and wellness, this audience size would probably be about 500,000. But what you're doing is you're adding layers of interest so that you can reach more people that fall within the types of people that you're trying to target. Now, this works really well, but what you can find is people that maybe don't have good jobs, maybe they don't have the financial capacity to sort of pay for your service. So that's when we then go on to layered. Now you can see layered here, audience size is much smaller, less than 100,000. However, as you can see here, same interests, which was giving us nearly 2 million. But what we've added in now is specific job roles. Now, these job roles, there's a lot more in here, but I can't obviously scroll on Miro, but there is pilots, there is teachers, there is accountancy, marketing managers. So we're looking at the people that are earning money, right? Then we add in must also match, and then we add in the health and fitness interests. So we're saying we want people that are employed in high paying roles, but must also like health and wellness, natural foods, vitamins and nutrition. Okay, and must also live in the top 10% zip codes in the US. Obviously, the US is a much broader demographic. So we're really defining this. Now, what would happen is if we wipe this out and we remove this, this audience size would increase, because what we're doing is we're removing an extra layer, which is basically being more specific with the audience size. So by removing that layer, that would increase probably to 300,000. Then if we remove this layer, that would increase the audience size even more, because all we'd be doing is targeting employment interests. So what happens here is when you do layered approach, each time you say must also match, you are decreasing the audience size because you're being even more specific, if that makes sense. So let's just say all these job roles it was an audience size of 3 million. Well, not all of those people in those job roles are going to like health and wellness, natural foods and vitamins, right? So when those get added in as a layer, it will reduce the audience size. Then when we say, well, we only want people that live in the top 10% of zip codes, that will reduce it even more. So it's super, super specific. Now, what you might find is a higher cost per follow, but the people that come into your account are quality. Whereas when you look at these, it's more broad. So there's lots more follows for a lot less money. But the issue is it's everyone and anyone. And then when you go super broad, you haven't actually got any data in your account if you're a new advertiser. So it just literally finds you anyone that it thinks is suitable. So here is where you'll get probably your best return because you're being super specific. Now, the last one is your lookalikes. So your lookalike interest is pretty much, as you can see here, your 1 to 2% of your Instagram followers, and for example here, calls taken. So what this is basically all the calls that this individual has taken with his business. We get that into an email list so that they're the highest intent buyers because they've all come on calls. And then we basically say to Meta, find us more people like this. Now, Meta will try and find as many people that are like this in an ad, okay? And what you would say from this is these types of lookalike lists are probably your best because they're the closest to the people that have bought or have been interested. So what Meta will do, it will find the behaviors of people in this list, and it will go out and try and find more people with similar behaviors. Now what you'll find here, cost per follow is probably double, okay, so like ×2, but the quality is much, much better because you're building it off of your client base and you're asking Meta to find more people. Now your client base will have specific interests and specific things that they like, right? And basically what you're telling Meta is find me more of those people. Now, hopefully that makes sense. If you got a lot out of this, please obviously drop a like and a comment. And if you want to ask any questions, feel free to fire away and I'll speak to you guys soon.